Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. On top of Donald Trump tanking U.S. stock markets and triggering a recession, now there is this. U.S. economy to lose billions as foreign tourists stay away. Almost $20 billion in retail spending from international tourists in the United States may be at risk. According to U.S. government reports, the overall economic loss in the United States could be $100 billion. And everywhere you look around the globe, the number of tourists headed to the United States is way down.
The U.S. is tracking a big drop in tourism from around the world. Take a look at this. Travel from Canada and Mexico was down double digits in March. We're also seeing fewer visitors from Western Europe, Central and South Asia, South America, I should say, Asia, Africa, even Australia.
But the biggest drop involves the country that usually sends the most tourists to the U.S., Canada. Last month, the number of Canadians who booked flights to the United States was off by 500,000 people compared to the same month a year ago. That's a year-over-year drop of 70%. Many Canadians also drive to the United States, but those visits are also way down. And U.S. border towns that rely on Canadian tourists are in deep trouble.
Welcome to Point Roberts, Washington, a tiny American town stranded below British Columbia. Now it's a frontline casualty in Trump's tariff war. Business is collapsing, tourists aren't crossing the border, and Trump's tough talk on Canada, it's turning longtime friends into boycotters.
I'm a dual citizen, and we rely heavily on the Canadians coming down here. And with President Trump, what he said, he's offended them. I can understand tariffs. I don't really understand them, what's going to happen with all this, but it's got the world kind of going crazy right now.
But Canadians say the craziness, the insanity, all starts with Donald Trump.
It's been pretty clear that what Donald Trump and the MAGA ideology are focused on is the politics of fear, of keeping their people disoriented and frightened of the border, frightened of their neighbors. And to make that possible, it's become clear that Donald Trump is willing to drive his nation's economy into chaos, to rip up the biggest and best trading partnership in the world, to drive the U.S. travel industry into the ground.
The Canadian travel boycott is in response to Donald Trump's double-digit tariffs on aluminum and steel and a 25% tariff on Canadian-made auto parts. But many Canadians are also refusing to visit or spend money in the United States because of Trump's rhetoric and insults. Trump recently described Canadian leaders as more difficult to negotiate with than most of America's enemies.
One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada. The people that, now this was Trudeau, the people that good old Justin, I call him Governor Trudeau, his people were nasty.
The barbs and put-downs, along with the trade war and Trump's disregard for previous agreements, have horrified Canadian political leaders. And so they continue to issue public warnings like this.
I urge people not to travel to the United States, but to keep the boycott, to keep strong, because Canada will never kiss that gangster's ring. We are true, we are North, we are strong, we are free, we will not bend, and we will not give an inch.
All of this continues to add up, and the drop in tourism to the United States is getting worse with each passing month. Here's a report from Bloomberg.
A 10% drop in March of non-citizens arriving at U.S. airports. And it won't surprise you probably to know that the biggest year-over-year declines were from Canadians, people flying in from Mexico, and from Europe. Travel from other regions was a little bit more stable. And we've already seen airlines like Delta and Air Canada, warn about this sort of shifting sentiment. Air Canada has changed some capacity, moved some of it out of U.S. destinations. Other airlines have done the same thing as well. And obviously there are multiple reasons. It's the trade war, but it's also concerns about security and how you'll be treated when you head to the borders.
And the Trump administration is not exactly easing those concerns. The most recent horror story involves two German teenagers arrested in Hawaii. Newsweek, German tourists deported from U.S. for not booking hotel. Quote, 2 German teenage girls were detained and deported from the United States after arriving in Hawaii without a hotel reservation. Marie Lapierre and Charlotte Pohl, both recent high school graduates from Rostock, Germany, embarked on a world tour visiting countries like Thailand and New Zealand, according to the German outlet Azi Zeitung. Their journey took an unexpected turn when they arrived in Hawaii without pre-booked accommodations. Immigration officials, suspecting potential unauthorized work intentions due to the lack of hotel reservations, detained them. They arrived in Honolulu on March 18th, planning to spend 5 weeks exploring the islands before continuing to California and then Costa Rica following their graduation. The duo spent several days in a detention facility before being deported, despite holding valid travel documents and having no prior infractions. That's right, because of the lack of hotel reservations, U.S. officials decided that 2 German high school girls rich enough to fly to Hawaii as part of a world tour, including free countries like New Zealand and Thailand, came to Hawaii for the manual labor. Not that they wanted to surf or see volcanoes or tour around paradise. Seriously, this is how stupid the Trump immigration and customs officials are these days. As a result of this incident and others, German officials have now issued a travel advisory warning Germans not to visit Trump's third world hellhole. And back to Canada. Canadian companies are also blocking employee travel to the United States.
AIMCO, the Alberta Pension Fund, has told its staff that it will be curbing trips to the U.S. They'll be able to go for some reasons, but not for like conferences and speaking engagements. And last night we reported that the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, a pretty major research hospital in Canada, has advised its staff not to go to the U.S. and has given them all sorts of advice about what to do if they do have to go to the U.S. in terms of cleaning up their laptop and taking a burner phone that doesn't have your personal data on it. It's somewhat hard to believe we're talking about this in the realm of Canadian-U.S. travel, but that's where we are.
And where we are is going to cost the U.S. economy up to $100 billion this year. Now, that may not seem like much compared to the trillions of dollars Trump has already cost Americans by tanking the U.S. stock markets. Still, it all adds up. And it all means the U.S. economy is in a hole that is getting deeper, and America's traditional allies are not about to lend a hand and help lift the United States out. By the way, the lone liberal staffer on Fox News, Jessica Tarlov, recently fact-checked her conservative co-hosts on the case of a migrant deported and jailed in El Salvador with no due process.
Abrego Garcia, there is no proof that he was an MS-13 member, and it has been debunked many times.
It's been debunked
yes, it
by
has.
liberal
It was
newspapers.
That's not true.
In a court of law,
Stop.
a section I-113 or 123 is reliable, verifiable proof that you were a member of a gang, and he was never able to rebut it.
It was based on double hearsay testimony and also a detective who was indicted merely weeks later for providing confidential information to a sex worker. He was also allegedly an alcoholic. That's how we got into this. But the point is that this man has been living in this country out in public, meeting on an annual basis with his DHS caseworker. He goes in once a year. He talks to them. They know where he works. He's an on-the-books worker. This is not somebody who is a gangbanger. This is not somebody who has committed any other crime besides being here in this country. And he came here also based on credible threat of being murdered by a gang at home who was threatening his entire family.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Bert, who wrote, Jessica Tarlov is a treasure, a lovely, intelligent woman who prepares herself with facts. The rest are just unserious clowns that lie through their teeth. Indeed. And Jessica's ability to deal with all of that every day is superhuman. Anyway, I look forward to reading your comments about the United States losing tens of billions of dollars as foreign tourists stay away. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.